개인적으로 나는 남편 없이는 너무 힘들 것 같아. Personally, I think it would be very hard without my husband, is what our Korean learner said. Grammatically is okay, 근데 너무 직역적인 느낌 뭔가 번역투 뉘앙스 나와요. Instead, we have the phrase, I'd be without. This is really common. Anything. It's good for anything, and then you can explain why or ask them questions about what they said. Hello everyone, it's day 41 of Gabrielle's English Diary. Today, our title is Coffee and Conversation on the Rooftop. 커피와 이야기가 어디서? 옥상에서. 어떤 얘기가 있을까요? Let's see. Number 1. 우리 학원이 있는 건물을 관리해주는 나의 지긋한 신사분이 있다. 나의 지긋한. 이거 어떻게 얘기할까요? Our Korean learners say, there's an elderly gentleman who manages the building our academy is in. And our native speakers say, there's an elderly gentleman who looks after the building where my academy is located. Elderly gentleman is correct. Here, we want to be careful not to use elderly in every situation because it can give kind of a clinical atmosphere. But when we're talking about 신사, gentleman, then it gives more of a respected atmosphere. Elderly gentleman. Good. Now, let's compare manages and looks after. Manages is more about administration, like an event or a manager might manage something. But looking after gives a warm feeling of caring about what you're doing. So a lot of times I'll see him walking around, checking the building, and he says, 나 이 빌딩이랑 동갑이야. He cares about the building. That's why I said look after. And instead of our academy is in, this is correct grammatically. Saying where our academy is located is a little bit better because number 1, we're in the beginning of the story explaining where and when the story is happening. In that case, this kind of where 어쩌고저쩌고 is a little bit better to explain. And also, we're in a narrative storytelling mode here. And this kind of sentence better suits this type of phrase in that case. So, there's an elderly gentleman who looks after the building where my academy is located. Number 2. 나는 항상 어르신 세대의 이야기를 듣는 것을 좋아하는 편이라 그분과 대화를 나눠보고 싶었다. Our Korean learners say, I like listening to stories from the elderly generation, so I wanted to talk with him. Now here, elderly generation, 이거는 조금 아니에요. This sounds more clinical than friendly like elderly gentleman. Instead, we can just say, I've always had a soft spot for hearing stories from the older generation, so I was eager to strike up a conversation with him. Elderly generation보다 older generation 조금 더, it sounds a little bit more relevant for casual conversation. Elderly generation is probably 70대 이상, which he is, but it makes them sound a little bit old in this case. Instead, just saying older generation, 뭐 나보다 더 나이 많은 generation, conversation 할 때 또 잘 어울립니다. Now, I like listening to is correct, but if we want to give more of a warm nuance, 그 따뜻함이랑 뭐 casual conversation의 좋은 표현은 had a soft spot. Had a soft spot is a really great phrase for saying something that you like, or when you see it, your heart just gets kind of warm. And I have a soft spot for dogs and kids, so when I see them, I just automatically smile. So in this story, I talk about having a soft spot for hearing stories from the older generation, which is really true. They're really interesting, you know. So whenever I hear those, I'm very eager. Eager, 훨씬 더 약간 기대감 있고 하고 싶은 느낌이 있어요. want보다. 약간 want to talk with him 하면은 뭔가 문제 있는 것 같아요. 약간 나는 이 문제에 대해서 얘기하고 싶어. I want to talk with you about something. 뭔가 그 따뜻함이랑 기대되는 뉘앙스 없어요. Instead, eager to strike up a conversation. 뭔가 I want to start a conversation, strike up a conversation. This is a great phrase that shows I'm excited about it too. Like, I really want to strike up a conversation with that guy from the store across the street, but I haven't gotten the chance yet. 이럴 때도 잘 쓸 수 있습니다. I want to start a conversation in a casual, fun way. I've always had a soft spot for hearing stories from the older generation, so I was eager to strike up a conversation with him. 3번, 드디어 기회가 왔을 때 그가 자신의 인생 이야기를 들려줬다. Our Korean learners say, finally, when the chance came, he told me his life story. And our native speakers say, when I finally got the chance, he told me his life story. Now, I mentioned this before, but 뭔가 이야기를 할 때는 when I, where I, 이 문장 structure는 잘 씁니다. So, when I finally got the chance sounds much smoother than finally, when the chance came. 여기는 finally로 시작하면 조금 약간 드디어 이런 느낌이고 when I finally got the chance 하면은 we're putting less stress on finally. It's still emphasized, but it's less stress, so it sounds a little less negative. When I finally got the chance. Had the chance보다는 using chance here as a subject is a little bit awkward. Instead, got the chance or get the chance or had the chance is much more common in spoken conversation. When I finally got the chance, he told me his life story. 그는 87세이고 자녀가 둘 있지만 놀랍게도 손주가 없었다. He really, 놀랍게도, didn't have any. How can we say this? He's 87 years old and has 2 children, but surprisingly, he had no grandchildren. This is a little bit awkward. Can you tell why? He has 2 children. This is okay for describing someone and if they have kids or not, but there's a much better way to say this. 그리고 여기는 had 있잖아요. 여기는 과거 나오면 안 돼요. 왜냐면 아직도 살고 계시잖아요. If you say had, it sounds like he passed away. He's gone. Plus, we're mixing has and had here. 이거는 그냥 문법적으로 안 돼요. Instead, he's 87 years old with 2 children, but surprisingly, no grandkids. 이거 훨씬 더 간단하고 better for spoken English. Let's go over it one more time. So, he's 87 years old with 2 children. Instead of saying has 2 children, with is much more common. For example, oh, she's married with 2 kids. Or she's single with no kids. Something like this. With, talking about children, is very common. But surprisingly, here we're connecting these 2 parts smoother by using these dashes, but also adding emphasis. Listen, he's 87 years old with 2 children, but surprisingly, we're pausing before and after to add emphasis about having no grandkids. No grandkids. 여기는 grandchildren보다 grandkids 훨씬 더 speaking할 때 좋은 표현이에요. It's a little bit less polite, but because it's grandchildren, you don't really have to be super polite. For a grandfather or a grandmother, you might want to use that polite long form instead of grandpa or grandma. But for grandchildren, it's okay to just say grandkids. Let's say one more time together. He's 87 years old with 2 children, but surprisingly, no grandkids. 그의 아들 중 한 명은 한의원을 운영하고 다른 아들은 최근 한국으로 돌아오기 전까지 중국에서 일해왔다. Our Korean learners say one of his sons runs a Korean medicine clinic and other son worked in China before he came back to Korea recently. Now, our native speakers say one of his sons runs a Korean medicine clinic, and the other had been working in China before moving back to Korea recently. Let's talk about the differences here. First, we have other son and the other. 여기는 먼저 article 넣으셔야 됩니다. You need to have the or his in here, grammatically, for it to work. Also, adding son here is a little bit flat. 굳이는 안 넣어도 되고, you can just say the other had been working. Using had pp here makes that connection to now much more clear. We're adding imagery to our sentence. Had been working until recently. If we say worked, we don't know exactly when he worked or anything like that. So it's just making the sentence clear. Now, here too, came back, 돌아왔다. 근데 came back 하면은 came back for how long? 아니면 is he coming back for good? Is he going back to China? This is not clear if we just say came back. But if we say moving back, 이사해왔다. 이사하는 거 얘기하면은 약간 그럼 he's coming here permanently. 그런 느낌이 있구나. We can feel that it has more of a clear meaning. He came back to Korea permanently. He moved back. One of his sons runs a Korean medicine clinic and the other had been working in China before moving back to Korea recently. 그는 자신과 아내가 지금 따로 살고 있다고 말했다. He said that he and his wife are living separately now. Here, are living separately 여기는 살고 있다고 말했다. 많이 나오는데 굳이는 여기 이런 tense를 안 써도 돼요. 그냥 He mentioned that he and his wife live separately now. This sounds much simpler and smoother in the sentence. So instead of are living separately, we'll say live separately. And here, said. 그가 말했다. Said. This is perfectly okay grammar-wise. But if we want to say it in a little more warmer, more casual, more 약간 storytelling 할 때는 잘 쓸 수 있는 표현은 mentioned. Mentioned. When we're recalling something that someone said. He mentioned that he had to go to work. He mentioned that he had to pick up something from the store. Mentioned is much better than said. Said is a little bit more direct. 뭔가 직설적인 표현 than mentioned. He mentioned that he and his wife live separately now. 그 말은 예상 밖이었고 나에겐 조금 외롭게 들렸다. 외롭게 들렸다 하면은 어떻게 얘기할까요? Our Korean learners say, that was unexpected and sounded a little lonely to me. And our native speakers say, that caught me off guard. It sounded a bit lonely to me. Here, instead of a little lonely, you can say a bit. Now, little and a bit are both okay. There's no problem with either. A bit is a bit better for conversational English, but mostly I want you to focus on using a mix of them. Don't use a little too much. Don't use a bit too much. We're going to mix them. Use a little bit of both. Okay, now here, was unexpected. Unexpected is a good phrase, but it's more common for written English because it's a little bit formal. Instead, caught me off guard. 뭔가 진짜 놀라운 뉘앙스도 있고 it's better used in spoken English because it's a little bit informal describing that situation. Really? That caught me off guard. Unexpected is more like about something. That was unexpected. 여기는 that caught me off guard도 잘 어울립니다. So let's say one more time. That caught me off guard. It sounded a bit lonely to me. 하지만 그는 그저 미소가 지으며 이게 더 나아요 라고 말했다. 이거는 어떻게 얘기할까요? This is really interesting to me. But he just smiled and said, this is better. This is better is actually grammatically fine, but there's a phrase that we use a lot in this type of situation. That is, but he simply smiled and said, it's better this way. It's better this way is one phrase that commonly comes out in a situation where maybe you're not exactly happy about it, but you realize that it's better that way. For example, I'm so busy. I have a dog. 예를 들면 나는 강아지 있는데 내가 너무 바빠서 그 강아지를 제대로 사랑을 못 주고 케어 못 해주는 거예요. 그래서 다른 가족한테 줬는데 아이고 슬프잖아요. 슬픈데 it's better this way. 강아지를 위해 it's better this way. 이런 상황에서 잘 쓸 수 있습니다. It's better this way. 그리고 여기는 just smiled. 그냥 웃으면서 보다는 if we use simply, he sounds softer and wiser. 뭔가 an elderly gentleman who's softly smiling, simply smiled. This kind of phrase, this kind of nuance comes out with this phrase. He simply smiled. It sounds much warmer than just smiled. He simply smiled and said, it's better this way. 사람마다 행복에 대한 기준은 다른 것 같아. I think each person has a different standard for happiness. Standard for happiness. 여기는 기준이 나오니까 standard 자주 나오는데 there's a much better way to say this in conversational English. And that is, I guess everyone has their own idea of happiness. You can also use this phrase when asking a question like, what's your idea of happiness? If you're curious about what that person thinks happiness is. Here also, think보다는 think sounds a little bit sure here, like I'm saying my opinion about something. But I guess is more like, I guess. 이런 nuance. I guess everyone. Each person is also correct. 근데 훨씬 더 자주 쓰는 거, everyone. I guess everyone has their own idea of happiness. Number 10. 개인적으로 나는 남편 없이는 너무 힘들 것 같아. Personally, I think it would be very hard without my husband, is what our Korean learner said. Now let's compare. Personally, I'd be lost without my husband. This phrase, it would be very hard without, grammatically is okay. 근데 너무 직역적인 느낌 뭔가 번역투 뉘앙스 나와요. Instead, we have the phrase, I'd be lost without. This is really common. I mean, you can use this in conversation. What would you be lost without? I'd be lost without my dog. I'd be lost without my sister. I'd be lost without my computer. Anything. It's good for anything, and then you can explain why or ask them questions about what they said. Here, I said, I'd be lost without my husband. We're showing our dependence on that thing or person. Personally, I'd be lost without my husband. Number 11. 그는 나에게 인스턴트 커피 한 잔을 꺼냈고 우리는 그의 작은 옥상 사무실에서 함께 앉아 내가 수업에 들어가야 할 시간 되기 전까지 약 30분 동안 이야기를 나눴다. Let's look at the first half first. He gave me a cup of instant coffee and we sat in his small rooftop office. But our native speakers say, he offered me a cup of instant coffee and we sat together in his small rooftop office. Here, let's talk about the difference between gave and offered. Now, what is give? 주다. Here, when you're talking about coffee or something like this, gave doesn't imply that I had a choice. But offer is more like, would you like this? Well, I'm not going to refuse, but offer gives that nuance of letting someone choose. So this is a bit softer in this case than give. So he offered me a cup of instant coffee and we sat together. Why do you think I added together here? Because it makes it warmer. We're not sitting alone. We're not just sitting. We're sitting together in his small rooftop office, talking together. It makes it warmer and gives more of that atmosphere that we want to show in this story. He offered me a cup of instant coffee and we sat together in his small rooftop office. Now, the second half. Talking for about 30 minutes until I had to go back to class. Here, talking은 조금 약하지 않아요? Isn't there a different phrase that we have learned already that we can use here? I think there is. Chatting. Chatting away for about 30 minutes before I had to head back to class. Now, here, talking보다는 chatting away, like I've said before, is much better for spoken English and it gives that warm feeling of talking together, having fun. We added away here. 이거 뭔가 시간 모르면서 그냥 뭐 수다 떨는 느낌. Now, go back to class is 약간 설명적 느낌이에요. I need to go back to class. This is common to say, but instead, if we're describing the situation and we want to add a warmer atmosphere to that, we can say, before I had to go back to class. 여기는 until 하면은 그 따뜻함에 넣는 거 조금 어려워요. So that's why we changed it to before and then head back, which is a commonly used phrasal verb in casual spoken English. So, chatting away for about 30 minutes before I had to head back to class. Number 12. 그와 이야기를 나누는 건 마치 과거로 시간 여행을 하는 느낌이었다. 시간을 여행을 하는 느낌이었다. How can we say this? Our Korean learners say, talking with him felt like a time travel to the past. 이렇게 쓰지 마세요. I've seen this a lot with my students who try and write it and it's okay, 시간 여행을 하는 느낌. A time travel to the past. 이렇게 나오는데 this sounds really awkward. Instead, talking with him felt like taking a step back in time. Memorize this phrase. This is the way we commonly say 뭔가 시간 여행 아니면 예를 들면 if you're going back to your high school, you go and you walk down the halls, everything looks the same and you remember playing with your friends, running down the halls or 뭔가 동아리 활동하는 거, you can say, wow, it's like taking a step back in time. 이럴 때는 이런 표현을 진짜 잘 써요. When you're going through something or seeing something that brings back those old memories. So, instead of a time travel to the past, we're taking a step back in time. 그리고 여기는 talking 했잖아요. If we use chatting every single time, it gets a little bit repetitive. So we set that warm atmosphere using chatting first, right? Then we can switch back to talking to kind of give us a little more of a mix of verbs. Talking with him felt like taking a step back in time. Wonderful. 다음에 또 함께 앉아 이야기를 나눌 시간이 정말 기대된다. 정말 기대된다 하면은 I'm excited to talk with him later again. 근데 I'm excited 하면은 이거 약간 너무 흥분하고 Yeah, I'm excited! 이런 느낌이고 이거는 조금 안 맞아요. When you're talking about talking with someone, maybe if you're gonna talk to your favorite idol, you might say, Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to meet him. But talking to an elderly gentleman 이거 약간 어색하죠? Instead, I'm really looking forward to. This is 기대되는 뉘앙스도 있고 약간 따뜻한 뉘앙스도 있고 I'm really looking forward to the next time we can sit down and chat. Sit down and chat. Sit down and chat is also better here than talk. Like I said, getting a mix is always better. Sit down and chat implies that it won't be some kind of quick conversation. Instead, I actually enjoyed it and I want to have that kind of conversation again. I'm really looking forward to the next time we can sit down and chat. Okay, everyone, I'm really looking forward to the next time I can see you or teach you or be together with you. And I will see you next in Reading Points. Bye-bye for now! Usually quickly or briefly, and this is neutral tone. So it can be formal and it can be informal. Now, I hear a lot of mistakes with favorite because it's a really common word that almost all English students know